What's going on, guys? My name is Trevor and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about episode 4 of Lovecraft Country. I'm really digging this show after this episode. I was a little down on it after episode 2 and episode 3. Episode 3 was much better than episode 2, but I just wasn't loving it like everyone else. But after episode 4, I can fully say I am back on board, back in love with the show like I was with episode 1. This is a full spoiler discussion, so let's talk about it down below in the comments. Full spoilers and everything. And let's get into episode 4, A History of Violence. After Christina mysteriously shows up at her doorstep, Letty confronts Atticus about his plan to surreptitiously return to Florida. Later, in search of missing pages to a crucial text, Letty, Tig, and Montrose head to Boston with Hippolyta and Diana along for the ride. Back in Chicago, a handsome stranger nurses Ruby's disappointment over a squandered job opportunity. So I'm not going to break down this entire episode scene per scene, but definitely got to be talking about that ending here in just a second. But as always, the show is shot beautifully, it is acted beautifully, everything about the show is done so beautifully. Letty Journey Smollett, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is always fantastic, and Jonathan Majors as Atticus, again, is always the standout, someone who's so easy to root for. So this episode definitely gave us some Indiana Jones type vibes, some Temple of Doom type vibes, and that's what I honestly wasn't expecting for it, but like, I'm so glad they gave us to it. I mean, from trying to figure out puzzles to booby traps happening, everything just, it gave me Indiana Jones vibes, and it made me feel like a kid again. I really, really dug that. But also, this episode builds the tension. I mean, it builds the tension fantastically. There's so much, you just feel the pressure. You feel like you have to get done. You feel like you have to go and get what they're going to get. Episode 3 obviously left off with Christina and Atticus. Atticus trying to kill Christina, one of the Braithwaite people, and she was obviously not having it. So, and Christina goes and talks with Letty at Letty's house. Is actually unable to get into Letty's house because of a spell, and that was just a cool scene because Letty's so badass and she's so easy to root for, and I love Letty. She's so awesome. But then they go on this adventure. They go to Florida and they going with Atticus and Letty. Atticus's father, Hippolyta, and Diana are along for the ride. We're gonna get to them in a second because they have something that comes up big towards later in the episode. But when they get to this place and basically they have to go through booby traps, or everything about it was just so cool and inventive in this place, and they end up meeting this gal who knows a lot about what they're trying to find, and she doesn't speak a language. Atticus speaks the language. I'm not exactly sure how Atticus speaks the language. There was a couple things like that in this episode that, not that it didn't make sense, but it kind of didn't make sense, certain things like that. We'll get to another one here in a second, but basically they have to save this gal, and once they take the pages that they were looking for, they start leaving, then the whole place floods with water. Visually, it looked beautiful. I thought maybe it could look a little too CGI, but looked pretty dang good for the most part, and the whole tension and the whole like pressure on that they're swimming in water and they have to basically escape or they will drown and they will die. That's just a couple of the booby traps that were going on throughout the episode. But also, if we get to that ending was fantastic. First off, Hippolyta and Dee are actually going, they found George's map, his atlas, and they found out that he had a couple places circled. So Hippolyta's just been wanting answers because ever since George died, everything has seemed a little weird, and I still have this gut feeling George is alive. I feel like they're going to leave us off with this season that George is alive. That's just me, but Hippolyta and Diana are going to get some answers as to what the hell actually happened to George. That's going to be interesting in the next episode, but that gal that they rescued that didn't speak any English, kind of weird like as to who she was, and I'm not kind of unsure as to who she was, but they bring her back with them in Chicago. Didn't really explain how they got back to Chicago. They kind of just showed up at Chicago and left Dee and Hippolyta in Florida. That was kind of something I was a little like, how'd they get there? But that's beside the point. That's a minor nitpick in the episode. So they get this gal who doesn't speak any English, and Atticus is like, we gotta probably teach her English so she can write down Eden and all these Adam and Eve's like story basically, so she can write it down for us so we can articulate it better. And Montrose goes up and like I was expecting something big to happen because something always big happens at the end of these episodes, but Montrose goes up and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, is this like a Arya Stark type scene where he has something like a face mask, he takes it off and he's one of the Braithwaite people, but he goes up to her and says, I'm sorry, and slits her throat. Black screen. That's how the episode ended. What a way the episode ended. And I'm wondering if Montrose is working with the Braithwaite family. That's just me. But also, one of the Braithwaite people, I don't know his name, but the character has blonde hair, blue eyes. He's answered the door after episode 1, so we've been expecting you. Well, him and Ruby do the deed. They get it on together, and I'm just wondering what's going to happen with that, because if we go back to the first episode or second episode where we find out exactly when it happens with the Braithwaite people have sex with people, they actually end up breeding monsters. So I'm wondering if that's going to come into play with this and Ruby's character. But overall, an episode that made me fall back in love with the show. This is the type of episode I've been expecting. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode down below. I might be forgetting a lot of things that happened, so let's talk about it down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I'm very happy to be back in the love category for Lovecraft Country. Thank you guys for watching. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Also, hit that subscribe button. Lots more content coming in Lovecraft Country every Sunday night. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.